regarding the Lions and the Cowboys, the Pistons winning their opening game and starting off on the right foot. Yeah, buddy. And our preview of the Western Conference and our picks for the NBA awards. Got to remind you guys to like and subscribe, all that good stuff on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. We got full episodes on YouTube as well as DetroitSportsNation.com. And got to welcome you guys to another installment of Small Business Friday. Today's spotlight, You Drink, I Make. With experience in the bartending industry since 2005, stop laughing, Ryan. You Drink, I Make is recognized across the industry as an innovator. In addition to extensive mixology work, their experience includes menu consulting and original recipe creation. You Drink, I Make is currently based in Detroit, but they've often hit the road meeting industry professionals or discovering the latest trends and flavors as far as San Francisco. Being one of the originators of the mobile bartending boom in Metro Detroit, they pride themselves on being ahead of the industry. They are the innovators in the adult beverage service industry across the nation. They are where signature beverages, social media, and mobility collide. From signature mixers to bar toolkits to being involved in events for you like bartending services and event staffing and even stuff for kids like a cupcake experience. They got you covered. Visit www.youdrinkimake.com. That's you with a U, not Y-O-U. www.youdrinkimake.com. Yeah, Ryan, we gotta hit these guys up.
I know, and honest to God, if you guys decide to step up your just home drink game a little bit, one, I'm sure that's the perfect place for it. Two, it's such a better experience. I'm sure that place blows TikTok out of the water, but you can even go on TikTok and drink combinations. They'll tell you what to buy. You go buy it. They'll tell you the portion to do it. You have a little bit of a heavy hand like me. Maybe you like it a little bit stronger, but it's delicious. You get delicious drinks. You get to watch. Now you get to watch all your football, all your basketball, all your favorite video podcasts that you want to do, and instead of just having a Miller Lite or something in your hand, you get to have something that you made and is way more delicious. I'm all for it. It's best Small Business Friday yet.
And with
other small businesses.
With the way our Lions been playing, they gonna make you drink, so you might as well hit up youdrinkimake.com.
That's right.
Speaking of Detroit Lions heading off to Jerry's World to take on the Dallas Cowboys. The Cowboys are a touchdown favorite. The over-under is 49. Big news for Dallas this week. They're expecting the return of Dak Prescott, who's been out since week 1. And for them, the timing couldn't be better. Ryan Cooper Rush finally looked like a backup last week. Philadelphia Eagles tore him apart. 3 interceptions. Just did not look like he had looked leading up to that. That's obviously because Philly is actually a good team, and they gave Dallas some struggles. But they're getting Dak Prescott just in time to host the vaunted defense of the Detroit Lions.
Remember who picked the Eagles to be in the Super Bowl. So, for Dak, you can't get really a better coming out party, or coming back party, I guess, than against the Lions, right? The Lions have the worst defense in the NFL, maybe one of the worst defenses in NFL history, if not the worst. And something was brought up on, I think it might have been the Bill Simmons podcast, but it was a really good point with Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard kind of pushing for that starting job. Ezekiel Elliott has looked better this year than he has maybe in the past 3 or 4 since Ezekiel Elliott was really Ezekiel Elliott. And for the Lions, again, I think that just spells danger, right? You have a motivated guy who is, still maybe a top 10 running back in the NFL. He certainly can have weeks like it. And then you're going to get Dak Prescott back, obviously CeeDee Lamb. It's tough, right, for the Lions. And then with the Lions on offense, it sounds like Amon-Ra and DeAndre Swift will be playing. Amon-Ra played last week, wasn't not last week, but 2 weeks ago. It wasn't all that effective. And DeAndre Swift says he's aiming to play. I don't exactly know how confident that makes you that he'll be able to go, but it's his plan, at least right now, to play on Sunday. But the Cowboys have really good defense, right? They have Micah Parsons, who the Lions didn't draft so they could draft Penei Sewell. And I know a lot of fans at the time wanted Parsons. They probably feel a little bit vindicated, although Sewell's been great in his own right. I just don't see that this is a great matchup for what the Lions bring. When you have Dak coming back, so the team might already be a little bit more motivated. You have Ezekiel Elliott trying not to give up the starting job. You have Tony Pollard trying to win the starting job. You have Scam Likely calling me in the middle of this rant here. So I just don't think it's a good matchup for the Lions, and I wish Dak Prescott was, on the sideline for one more week, not hurt, just so he can rest up and get better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with you as far as it being a tough matchup, especially with Elliott and Pollard, like you pointed out. Detroit's run defense, I mean, just as bad as the rest of the defense. They're allowing over 167 yards per game. They've given up the second most rushing touchdowns in the league at 10. The last time we saw the Lions defense, your fantasy running back, who you traded to me, is now my fantasy running back, Ramondre Stevenson, had 161 yards on 25 carries. They've allowed back-to-back 100-yard rushers. And you're talking exactly like we were talking about with Ezekiel Elliott, who's being pushed by Tony Pollard. Last week, Elliott against the decent Eagles defense had 13 carries for 81 yards and a touchdown. So if they don't even need Dak for this one, it seems like. If they just focus on the ground game, they're going to be able to punish the Lions enough that they can just beat us on that.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, they might not need Dak. The Patriots didn't need Mac Jones. They need Bailey Zappi to come in here and put up, 22 points. 7 came from the one the defense scored. So, don't give those points to Bailey Zappi. But the Patriots came in and beat the Lions, shut the Lions out. They had a third-string quarterback. Geno Smith wasn't supposed to be the starter for the Seahawks, and he's looked really good this year. But his coming-out party was kind of against the Lions, where he torched them. So it's like, even if Dak Prescott wasn't playing, I don't think I'd pick the Lions to win this game. Would you?
No, I wouldn't, just because of how bad the defense has been for the Lions, and then on the other side, how good the Cowboys defense has been and how good they've been at disrupting what other teams' offenses want to do and getting to the quarterback. I understand the Lions' offensive line has been pretty good, but that defense that Dallas has been bringing, led by Micah Parsons, has been very disruptive, and we've seen how Goff reacts when he gets disrupted. He throws into double, triple coverage, gives up those interceptions, those pick sixes, and like Dallas, between defense and running the game alone, it has enough to beat the Lions right now.
Yeah, I mean, so Dallas is a team that I've actually thought was pretty good for 3 or 4 years, but they're always worse than I think they're going to be. I think even on one of our Sports Carnage years, I picked the Cowboys to go to the Super Bowl. I don't think they ended up making the playoffs that year. So this could just be like a case of bias of a team that I've always felt was at least decent, at least good. But they're certainly better than the Lions, and I think it will be a sad Sunday in Detroit after having kind of the bye week this Saturday. Whether you're going to, I'm going to the cider mill personally, with Michigan and Michigan State having their bye week, and then they play, next Saturday. But so you'll have a pretty relaxing Saturday probably, and then when Sunday comes around, it'll be time to pay the piper. You got Lions free last week, and they're right back at it, breaking your heart.
The chance the Lions have is DeAndre Swift. If DeAndre Swift comes back, he gives the Lions some ability to fight back against this Dallas defense. Because if there is a weakness on the Cowboy defense, it is the running game. They've allowed 120 yards per game. And, Swift, before the injury, he has 308 yards and a couple touchdowns. So if he can play, he can have that success. The Lions offense, we've seen the numbers this year. They're second most in yards at over 410 a game. They're third most in points at 28 per game. That includes the shutout that happened. But you need guys like Amon-Ra St. Brown and especially DeAndre Swift to be involved. Jamal Williams is a heck of a number 2, but he's still not a number 1. And DeAndre Swift, when he is healthy, has proven to be a number 1. The Lions are going to need him to have any chance to fight back against the Cowboys this week on the road in Dallas.
Yeah, I mean, Swift, I guess the only thing there would be, you're asking Swift to come back and essentially be 100%. Because it's still a good Cowboys defense. I know that they're not so great against the run, but it's not like DeAndre Swift is out here getting 15 carries a game anyway. Even when he was healthy, they were splitting him, at least in the run game, and then letting DeAndre Swift get a lot of the passing work where he's able to do a lot of his damage. I don't have his yards, pulled up in front of me, yards from scrimmage against, just his raw rushing yards. From just eyeballing it, my guess would be it's probably close to 50-50. running yards still probably does have the advantage. But, I mean, Swift does a lot of his work in the passing game, and Jamal Williams has been good as a number 2. The question is really just how healthy is DeAndre Swift, because even, again, leading up to this week, he didn't sound like he was certain he was playing. It was sort of like, hey, like it's my goal to play, essentially, right. Which, again, isn't the most confidence that you can have in, your running back saying, yeah, I'm ready to go. But I think what it kind of clearly shows is that he's not going to be 100%.
Right, and that's what I mean, like, I'm hoping he's healthy enough to play, because at least that throws a wrinkle into it. If you're just relying on Jamal Williams and obviously Justin Jackson and Craig Reynolds as well, but having Swift involved makes a difference, I think, and at least makes the Cowboys have to pay attention to him when he's in. It might open some things up for Jamal Williams later in the game. It's just a better chance for the Lions to fight back, and they're going to need everything they can get, because Dallas's defensive unit is no joke. Their offensive line has, that's the fun part for me to watch. Is going to be, we're hearing about new things they're trying on the defensive side of the ball for the Lions as far as Aiden Hutchinson and stuff, and now you're going to go up against a Dallas offensive line where they've had 2 weeks to get ready thanks to the bye week, and try to implement something to show that there is improvement and growth on this defense. Obviously the injuries have been terrible. Josh Paschal hasn't played a game yet, so getting guys like that back into the mix should open things up a little bit more on the defensive side of the ball for the Lions as well. But you can't be expecting to go from one end to the other just like that, even with getting all your guys healthy, and they're still not 100% healthy. But I'm hoping to see a little bit of improvement, having 2 weeks to get ready for Dallas and getting some healthy bodies back on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, I mean, health is a big factor, certainly for the defense. It'll be nice to get Aiden Hutchinson back after not playing since week 2.
Yeah, and I mean, the other side, like we talked about, you need Micah Parsons, DeMarcus Lawrence, Dorrance Armstrong. It's going to be a tall task. And then and then in the secondary, Trevon Diggs. And yes, Diggs does give up a lot, but he also takes a lot. And depending on the quarterback, and in this case, it's Goff, who likes to throw into double and triple coverage sometimes. Diggs might be, feasting. He's kind of a feast or famine guy. He might be feasting this Sunday, especially if the pressure's getting to Goff and Goff's just throwing it up there.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good call out, and that's actually a place where the Lions can take advantage, because kind of say what you want about Jared Goff. One thing he's been able to do this year is, put up yards, and some of those big passing plays can happen if, if they're targeting Trayvon Diggs, and if he messes up, essentially, right? If he's on Amon-Ra St. Brown, and then Amon-Ra is able to fool him on just kind of on like a hitch route or something, right? He fakes he's going inside, and then he just takes the top off deep. That is where you can expose, Diggs, and if you expose him there, usually it's a big play because he kind of takes himself out of the play. I just made the Aiden Hutchinson joke, and Diggs does sort of the same thing in the secondary, where he has more booms and usually more interceptions than I think what we've seen Hutchinson with the sacks. But in terms of just like taking yourself out of the play, if he runs it and that's not where the ball is going, then he is not in any position to defend the passer or get back and make a tackle, make a play. And that is a spot where Dallas's defense is susceptible, and the Lions can obviously take advantage with Amon-Ra St. Brown. Even with T.J. Hawkinson, although I don't imagine Hawkinson's going to be matched up with Diggs, so many times. But Chark or St. Brown, I think it's an opportunity for the Lions to get some quick points and get some big plays. And if they want to win this game, I think they'll have to have a couple of those chunk plays, because I don't know that Dallas's defense is going to be very forgiving.
Yeah, and I think they're going to have to start fast. I mean, you got to take advantage of the fact that this is, Dak's first game back. He might be a little rusty in that first quarter. Some of his throws might be a little bit off target from what he's used to. So you got to start fast for the Lions. And to me, the way to start fast is to establish the run game so that it opens up a play action game and a passing game that you can start kind of, getting Dallas to kind of gear up to stop the run, and now you faked it and you've thrown one on them. It's in my mind, and I know absolutely nothing about football, just looking at what I've seen about these two teams, it looks like that'd be the smart way to go about it, is to establish that run and then use it to get the play action involved, and take advantage of the fact that Dak might be a little rusty to start, might not be able to answer touchdown for touchdown, might be getting a couple field goal tries in there instead, and maybe be able to actually fight the Cowboys off for the first half before they come back out in the second half and, beat the brakes off the Lions defense with Dak looking a little bit more like himself. It's a tall task, that's for sure.
Yeah, so you're saying bet the mortgage on Lions first half money line. I hear you.
There you go. And for whatever it's worth, the last time these two teams played was Week 11 of 2019. The Cowboys came to Ford Field, beat the Lions 35-27. Prescott threw for 440-plus yards and 3 touchdowns. Again, that was 3 years ago. And again, also for whatever it's worth, the Lions are 6-0 against the spread under head coach Dan Campbell after a loss by double digits. So we're coming off a big loss. Yes, there was a bye week in between, but whatever it's worth, you can take that, to the bank as well. Lions +7 and the over/under of 49 should be. I think it'll be right around that number. And if the Lions do their part offensively, you should hit the over, I think.
Yeah, I think I'd probably take the over in this game. I expect a lot of points. I mean, even at least from the Dallas side, and then from the Lions. If they can put up 20 or 24 of their own, I think we should comfortably hit the over.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on to the hardwood in this Pistons segment, brought to you by GearUpDetroit.shop. Come find new and unique clothing that supports your teams of the mitten. From hats and hoodies to shirts and mugs, GearUpDetroit.shop has what you need to support your team. That is GearUpDetroit.shop. Ryan? Detroit Pistons start the season off 1-0, beating an equally bad Orlando Magic squad at the Palace of Auburn Hills, at Little Caesars Arena. And we even got Bill Simmons to come out and mention our Detroit Pistons.
Right.
That's how good Game 1 was of the season.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of an exciting game. You had the number 1 pick last year, number 1 pick this year with Paolo Banchero. And, I mean, Jesus Christ, does he look like every bit, a number 1 pick should look. It's incredible to watch him. But it wasn't enough. The Pistons were able to win, and I thought the most impressive part about the game was the Pistons started, I want to say, 0 of 9 from 3. The Magic had a 19-0 run really early in the game. And the Pistons were able to fight back even before they started hitting their three-pointers. And then they got, hot for a minute. I think they were maybe 10 of their next 18 after starting off 0 of 9, somewhere around there. So they ended up getting hot from 3. But even before they started to get hot, they were able to cut the lead to like 5. And then they were able to cut it again to 3 and 2. And then they were eventually able to take the lead and then kind of not relinquish it. Really, I don't think they were trailing. Certainly when the game hit the 60s. They weren't trailing late in the game. The Magic got close. They got within 1. But overall, it was a really good game from the Pistons. Kate Cunningham, 10 assists, made the right play a bunch of the times. Jalen Duren, youngest Piston ever, with the double-double. Jaden Ivey came in, and he had, 16 points and 4 assists. I might even be shorting him on the points there.
19.
Yeah, 19. 19 points for Jaden Ivey, 4 assists. Just a really strong effort. Even he shot 1 of 9. Watching the whole game, I can't figure out where his 9 shots came from. Maybe it's because I'm a Killian fan, and when he missed, I just blocked it out of my mind. But I thought overall, I still thought he played pretty well. When the Pistons were in their midst of 0 for 9 shooting from 3, there was 2 or 3 times where Killian hit somebody right in the corner, and they were wide open, and the shot just didn't fall. But I think even he himself probably had close to, maybe 5 assists. But there were some plays that he can get better at. Overall, though, really good. Isaiah Stewart hitting the final 3, the dagger 3, after being 0 of 3 from 3, and then having the confidence to take that one in the corner, which is something the Pistons have kind of been stressing to him, is to get more comfortable with that 3-point shot. And then we saw it pay dividends here in Game 1.
Yeah, I mean, outside of the horrible start, I couldn't have asked for anything more. For an NBA debut of Ivey and Duren, 19 points for Ivey, 14 and 11 rebounds for Duren, and then Bojan's Pistons debut, dropping 24 points on 50% shooting, 8 for 16, 6 for 10 from deep, and also showing a little bit of tenacity. He's doing a little bit of trash talking. He was giving advice in the huddle, showing a little bit of leadership to the young guys. I mean, I couldn't have asked for anything more. Obviously, we had talked about, the Pistons trying to work a way to get more open, easier deep shots for the offense. And obviously, at the very end of the game, Cade Cunningham, making the right play, making the right assist, beef stew, hitting the three to take the lead or to keep the lead for good. And it was everything you could ask for as a Pistons fan. And this is what I want to see going forward for these Pistons, is winning most of the winnable games. Look, they're not going to be sitting there fighting with the Celtics, the Warriors, the Bucks, and all these other teams. But when they're playing teams like the Magic and the Rockets and the Pacers, they need to win most of those games. That's what I want to see as far as the Pistons going forward, is winning most of their winnable games. If they have an over 500 record for their winnable games, that's improvement in my mind for this young Pistons team.
Yeah, I mean, they need to beat the Knicks, too, who they play tonight, to try and start out 2-0 like the Red Wings did. But, it was the Pistons were favored by 3. They ended up winning. And I actually think Orlando is still a better team than the Pistons. I think they'll finish with a better record. So I actually didn't think the Pistons were going to win the game. And then, of course, they surprised me. But, everything you said, you can't really ask for more from an opening night win. All the guys that we wanted to see play well outside of Killian really into shooting didn't, or they all did play well. Even Sadiq, when the Pistons were in the 19-0 run, he was the guy that was kind of giving them buckets after that to stop the lead from ballooning, up to 16, 18 points, whatever it was. He was still kind of able to keep them afloat in that stretch. And it's just going to be important for these different guys to kind of take the offensive load, because everybody's going to have an off night. And what you want to see from the Pistons is to have anybody be able to step up, right? Jalen Duren's probably not going to be able to create his own offense a lot of the time. But if he can rebound, if he can run the pick and roll with Killian, which I thought they did a really good job of, and then Sadiq, if Cade's having an off night, if he can go off, or if Sadiq's having an off night, if Ivy can handle some of that scoring load. That's what I think we want to see from the Pistons, is all these young guys who probably feel like they have to be some sort of a leader or shoulders kind of some sort of a burden offensively and defensively. Is we just want them to be able to answer the bell when their time is called.
Yeah, let me defend Killian a little bit here, because I know you're a fan of his. I'm a fan of his as well. And I keep watching, and I keep thinking about him, keep comparing him. And I think what would make Killian work out perfectly for the Pistons is to eventually become, but at least for the time being, a poor man's version of Marcus Smart. And be that guy that settles the team down defensively. And he did that. He had 3 steals, he had a block, he had 5 assists. Bad shooting night, 1 for 9. But if he can settle the team down defensively, and he was aggressive too, which I like to see, where he was driving to the rack. There were some shots there that he definitely got fouled on, I thought, and they didn't blow the whistle. But if he can settle the team down defensively, he's going to be doing a lot for this team going forward. And Marcus Smart, before he got the payday and then started thinking he was a three-point shooter, that's what he was. He was the guy that settled the team down defensively and dished out assists. And then he blew up last year and really went out with the assists. I'd love to see that from Killian eventually as well. It's been, 9-10 years for Marcus Smart to do it. I'd love to see Killian do it in about 4. But I did see some good things out of Killian. We knew he was going to be struggling for scoring in the first place. Marcus Smart more than 9-10 years at this point? Probably, huh?
No,
I'm getting old, man. I'm not. Marcus Smart's been in the league for a minute, man.
Yeah, not
10
years. Absolutely.
I'll bet you it's at least 8. I'll bet you it's at least 8.
It is 8. This is his 9th year.
There you go. So it ain't. Yeah. So I'm 1 year off. You give me side eye. Anyway, Killian does that. I keeps doing that. I'm going to be fine with him. And then what I loved from Jalen Duren is that he did everything I wanted Andre Drummond to do in Game 1. Every putback was a hard, angry, evil dunk. It wasn't a little floater shot of tip to myself and then do something with. No, I'm coming in hot, I'm coming in angry, and I'm throwing this ball and trying to break the rim every time. I loved it.
Yeah, Jalen Duren's prime Dwight Howard at this point. You couldn't have asked for a better start for him. Even with Jaden Ivey, we thought he'd be a big part of the offense going forward. But Jalen Duren, him being so young, the youngest player in the NBA, I like, even me, I thought he's going to need some time. If he could even start it like with the Motor City Cruise, that'd probably help his development. But I mean, we obviously had some trades and some injuries. Bagley's hurt. We traded away Kelly Olynyk, and then Jalen Duren was just kind of thrusted in to the starting lineup. But he played well in preseason. He led the NBA in rebounding during the preseason, and obviously he played well on opening night. So maybe this is a guy that's just already ready to be a rotational piece in the NBA, which is amazing considering that is absolutely not what we thought we were, kind of getting with that pick. Even I think the biggest Jalen Duren fans didn't expect an immediate contribution of like this magnitude right away. But even just seeing him after one game, like the rebounding is incredible. He gets so high off the ground when he jumps. And I told you guys in the chat, I think this guy is going to be in the likes of, the Ben Wallace, Andre Drummond, Dennis Rodman level rebounder in Detroit. Like, I really think he's going to be that good. It was amazing watching him, and it seemed like nobody in the game could compete with him on the glass. And somebody might have ended up with more rebounds. I don't have the box score in front of me. But when Jalen Duren was on the court, I bet nobody out-rebounded him. It was absolutely insane to watch. And the Pistons were in a situation 2 years ago when they had Isaiah Stewart and Sadiq Bey, where they had two members of all-rookie Bey first team, Bey first team, and then Stewart second team. And it certainly looks like that could be the case this year. Even maybe both end up making all first team with, again, Paolo Banchero, who played.
Paolo Banchero, when your name is. When you do the same thing that LeBron James and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar did in your first game as a rookie, that is get 25, 5, and 5, you're doing something right, and you're the reason. There's a reason you're the number one pick, and most likely going to be the rookie of the year this year. Unlike last year, where there was a good race that we feel we got screwed out of with Cade Cunningham. I don't know how big of a race there's going to be this year. I'm pretty sure it's going to be Paolo wire to wire, God willing, he stays healthy. But yeah, great win, great start. Yeah, there you go. But, so next up, the New York Knicks tonight, and let's see if the Detroit Pistons can start off 2-0. This is another one of those games. Not as winnable, obviously, as the Orlando Magic, but this is winnable. The Knicks have been up and down, and they haven't proven to be a great team yet. So let's see if we can surprise some people and start off the year 2-0. That would be wonderful. Let's get to the rest of the NBA, because we did our Eastern Conference kind of breakdown, and we didn't have time for the Western Conference breakdown, so let's get to it right now. We can start obviously with the defending NBA champions, the Golden State Warriors. They lost Peyton, they lost Porter, but they gained Wiseman, who's already been on the team, but he's actually going to be playing for the team this year. Already had a pretty decent showing in Game 1 on ring night against the hapless Los Angeles Lakers. To me, it's still this team and everybody else in the West. I've thought that for whenever their team is healthy. I don't think there's anyone that's beaten the Golden State Warriors. There's going to be some challengers this year, but I think the Warriors are definitely one of those teams we got to pay attention to all year round.
Yeah, I think they're the best team in the West. I don't know that it's head and shoulders above everybody else, but I do think the Warriors are better than what they were last year. And not even just Wiseman. The starting five that they had in the playoffs, they didn't play any minutes together in the regular season because somebody was always hurt, right? Clay, obviously, a big portion of the season, but Draymond, Steph, they didn't have their starting five until the playoffs, and then when they were in the playoffs, they had I think they were plus 26 with all of those guys on the court, and I mean, that was just the finals, but they had the best net rating of any five-man lineup in the playoffs. So it's, of course, a really good team. We saw what they did to a team who's probably not so good in the Lakers on ring night. But they're going through their own kind of turmoil, right, with Draymond Green knocking out Jordan Poole. And we'll see how that plays out throughout the length of the season. The team made the decision not to spend Draymond at all. So maybe it's not a big deal. Maybe it's something that people on the outside are just making a bigger deal of it because, we haven't seen anything like this really. Yeah, but maybe the Warriors are over it, which I guess is entirely possible. But the Warriors they're the Warriors at this point. Like, they've been doing this long enough that you can just say the Warriors are the Warriors, and that's what it is. And, they are certainly the Warriors again this year.
Look, man, sometimes when you are the established starting better player like a Draymond Green or a Michael Jordan, you got to punch a Steve Kerr or a Jordan Poole in the face to keep him in line. It didn't stop the Bulls from winning a championship after that happened, so I don't know how it's going to stop the Warriors either. But we're talking about guys like, we haven't even mentioned Jonathan Kuminga, Moses Moody, guys that actually stepped up and played important minutes last year in the finals for them are now going to get this year, full year under their belt with them as well to go along with Wiseman. Andrew Wiggins, Clay, Steph, Poole, Dre, it's ridiculous, man. The rich just get richer.
Yeah, I mean, and even, they got a rookie. We were just talking about rookies, Patrick Baldwin, who's, probably not good right now. But certainly by the time the playoffs come around, he was a guy who was really highly recruited and highly rated in high school. So I think the talent's probably there. And, kind of what better situation to go into than to go into Golden State, where you're able to just find your niche, right? And I think that's what makes the Warriors so scary is they, the culture, the system, but just kind of the flow of everything on the team. They have their established, here's what we're going to do. If Clay is hot, we're getting him the ball. I don't care what you got going on. If Clay is 4 or 5, 5 or 5 from 3, we're just going to keep feeding him until he misses or until this quarter ends or whatever happens. And it's just getting guys to buy into all of that. And then they're all on the same page. They all know what to do. And then they're adding these guys who are really talented, right? Kuminga was a high draft pick. Wiseman was obviously a high draft pick. Moody was a high draft pick. So they're able to add in talent to Steph Curry, who, he's probably a top 5 player in the NBA still. Klay Thompson, who's still one of the better shooters in the NBA. Draymond Green, who's one of the better defenders in the NBA. Jordan Poole, who looks like he's going to be a really good combination of shooting and playmaking to kind of be not a hybrid of kind of like Clay or Steph and Draymond or whatever you want to say, but just a hybrid guy who can do both. He's a guy who can handle the ball, and he's also a guy who can get his own shot and get to the line, make a 3, whatever the case is. And then Andrew Wiggins, right, who's still a really good athlete, and then he's turned himself into a really good defender. And that was kind of the litmus test. They got Andrew Wiggins, and they got him to buy in, a player who for years everyone said was a losing player. He didn't care about this, didn't care about that. He was just somebody who got paid and coasted. And then he goes to Golden State, and he's arguably the second best player on a title team. It's just amazing, and getting everybody to buy in to that culture and then buy into the leadership that they have over there. It's incredible, and it's what makes them really hard to beat, obviously outside of just their talent. But it seems like everybody knows their role, and if they don't know their role, they learn it within 3 or 4 months, at least within one season, where I bet Kuminga's way more comfortable this year than he was last year. And, it's the kind of same goes with Moses Moody. And then they're able to pick their spots. And then, if the Golden State Warriors have it their way, these are guys that they're just going to be passing the keys to moving forward as Draymond, Clay, and Steph get phased out.
Yeah. All right, last year the Warriors were kind of a forgotten team by most. They weren't forgotten by me. I'd pick them saying as soon as this team gets healthy, watch out NBA, the Warriors are coming back. This year's forgotten team in my mind that I'm not forgetting are the Los Angeles Clippers. Because along with Kawhi being healthy this year and Paul George being healthy this year, John Wall is playing this year. And people forget, because it's been a long time since we've seen John Wall play basketball. But this man averaged 19 and 9. I'm talking assists, not rebounds, while being a pro. And you're adding that to Kawhi and Paul George. You're adding a guy that can actually spread the floor and give that team some space, because this is a team that has struggled with having that with guys like Reggie Jackson who don't do it as well. You have a scorer in John Wall, a facilitator in John Wall, to go along with a 2-time Finals MVP in a healthy Kawhi Leonard and a top 25 player in his own right in Paul George. The Los Angeles Clippers are going to be making a statement this year and might be the team battling Golden State for the Western Crown.
I like the Clippers too, but with the John Wall talk, a lot of his strength was the fact that he was just faster than everybody. And, I know he didn't play last year, not because of injury, because they just didn't want him to play, but he was hurt the year before that, like, I don't know that John Wall still has all those same attributes that he had before. I mean, they're not even starting him. They're going to start Reggie Jackson at point guard and then let Wall come off the bench. So I do think Wall was a good signing, but I wouldn't just pencil Wall in as like their third best player or anything. It's a guy who's always struggled to shoot, and again, his biggest strength was his quickness. Does he still have that? I don't doubt that he can still pass or that he can still even score when he needs to, but I don't think they're getting the John Wall of old.
But man, why you got to ruin my parade with logic and facts? I didn't ask for that.
I mean, I like John Wall, but like, I don't know. Like, I think the Clippers are going to be good. Obviously, that's more tied to Kawhi Leonard and Paul George for me than it is to John Wall, and then even some of the trades that the Clippers made last year to get some like bench pieces and depth pieces. I thought Norman Powell was really good. I think Zubac is still a pretty good center for the Clippers, and they just have a ton of depth. I think one of the Morris brothers is still there, except those guys, change teams. It seems like every year, so that might not be the case. Markieff is on Brooklyn, and Marcus Morris is. Drum roll, please. He is on the Clippers, and those are guys who've just been good NBA players, right? The Pistons had them both, not at the same time, but they've had them both, so we've seen them here. And I think I'm excited to watch the Clippers. They played, but when we're recording this, I guess they're going to be playing tonight. But yeah, I think they're a team that can absolutely win the West. It depends on health with Kawhi Leonard,
right,
with Paul George. And that's
John Wall.
kind of going to be where it stops. And then, I think they can do it without John Wall. Again, I just don't know what we're getting from John Wall. I think it's a good, I think it's a good signing, but it could be just like when the Cavs signed Sean Marion or something, and people were going crazy about that. And Sean Marion was older than Wall was. I'm sure Sean Marion was probably 35 years old, but like we don't know what John Wall is. He did have all of last year to just sit, right? He wasn't hurt. The Rockets just didn't want to play him because they were trying to be really bad and get the number one pick. But I don't know. So I'd probably be a little less bullish on John Wall, but equally as bullish on the Clippers.
I'm expecting 15-6 minimum from John Wall this year. I'm expecting 15 points and 6 assists minimum. This man can still play ball. I'm excited to watch him. It's been a long time since I got to see this man play some basketball, and I'm excited. I hate the Clippers with a passion. Obviously, Lakers all day, but I'm excited to see this team play together because they got some people on it that I like, including the head coach, Ty Lue. Man, synonymous with being stepped over by AI, but he's proven to be a pretty decent head coach so far in his young career. All right, moving on. Memphis Grizzlies, Ryan. This team is an anomaly. You're talking about one of the best on their team in Ja Morant, yet somehow this team has a better record playing without Ja than playing with Ja. I, for the life of me, can't figure that out when you got a guy that can constantly go out there and get you 35, 40 points a game, yet this team is so well built that they can do just as well without their best player on the floor.
Yeah, I still think that's an anomaly. Now, it's a pretty big anomaly. I think the sample size is like 30 games or something. So it's not nothing. But it's just not a better team. Like without John Morant, I refuse to believe that. John Morant, most improved player in the NBA last year. But the Grizzlies are good. And they seem like one of those chip on the shoulder teams who they got knocked out obviously last year by the Warriors. Clay was talking crap in the post game after they won the title, and then I think John Morant tweeted after Clay said what he said about calling Jaren Jackson Jr. a bum. But they're also not going to have Jaren Jackson Jr. At the start of the year. He's hurt, of course, like he always is. But it's a really deep team, and it's a team that's well coached, and they play with just as much heart as any other NBA team does, more so than most. They're I think they're probably the hardest playing team in the NBA, and that's going to go well for them when they have the talent that they do. They still have Steven Adams, obviously John Morant, Xavier Tillman, I thought, was really good last year as a rookie, and then I think he'll probably have to take a bigger role this year with Jaren Jackson being out. But you even look at guys like Desmond Bane, it's just it's a solid team all around, and I don't know that they're going to get past the Warriors. That might be the team that they keep running into, and then the Warriors just keep bullying them. But the Grizzlies are, kind of guaranteed, of course, to make the playoffs, and they'll probably be one of the top seeds in the West.
Yeah, I'm curious to see some of the young guys they brought in. David Roddy out of the draft, and then some of the older guys. I mean, they brought Danny Green in. We know what Danny Green can be when he's on his game. He can be very dangerous 3-and-D guy, and if he brings that to the table for the Grizzlies, they'll go quite far. Talking about a 3-time champion and man that knows how to hit his shots. Then go along with Dylan Brooks, and Desmond Bane, like you mentioned. This is a squad that they got in Memphis, and they're going to be battling, and they a lot younger than the established veterans of the Warriors, but the Warriors have found a nice way to influx that youth with their experience to try and keep this thing rolling. And this is a fun one to watch. And they got a matchup on Christmas Day that they've been begging for. That'll probably be the highlight of the Christmas Day matchups when these two teams get together. But Memphis definitely, I think, one of those top 4 seeds to pay attention to out of the West. Definitely.
Yeah. I think so. Awesome.
Another guy getting some help back and trying to make a move in the Denver Nuggets, reigning MVP Nikola Jokic, welcoming back Murray and Michael Porter Jr. Man has needed some help. He has carried Denver as far as he possibly can on his own, and hopefully he is going to get the help that he's been missing over the last couple of years with some health playing a factor on the Denver Nuggets. They have had horrible luck in that factor. Maybe they'll get some good luck this year and everyone can actually stay healthy, and the Denver Nuggets might be making some noise in the Western Conference.
Yeah. They lost Game 1 against the Jazz, which was pretty surprising.
That's ugly.
I think the Nuggets are going to be really good this year. Of course, Jokic, Jamal Murray, also Michael Porter Jr. coming back. They added Kentavious Caldwell-Pope and Bruce Brown in the offseason, guys that Detroit fans should be familiar with. But I think they're doing a good job of just kind of rounding out their team. Obviously, everything runs through Nikola Jokic, but it's a team that I think is going to have a lot of wins in the regular season, and even by the time like the playoffs come, if you're looking for like a dark horse to win the title, obviously we talked about the Warriors, the Clippers. Those teams are probably two of the, of course, like top 4 betting favorites, I would guess. But the Nuggets are probably down there, probably around 10th. Maybe not quite that low. But if you're gonna like pick a dark horse team to win the West or even win the title, I think the Nuggets are that team, because everything that they just add back, Jamal Murray, of course, takes some of the pressure off Nikola Jokic. But again, man, Michael Porter Jr., of course, he has to stay healthy. But this is a 6'10" forward who's giving you like 42% from 3 and shooting probably like 8 a game. So it's really an amazing team if they can all be together. They got Bones Highland last year in the draft, who ended up making one of the all-rookie teams. So he's been really good. It's going to be their backup guard, and the Nuggets just have a lot of different options. They still have Aaron Gordon, who was a number 1 on the team before, probably not even the number 4 on the Nuggets now, but he's a guy who can give them some offense when they need it, and then play some good defense for them as well. And I think the Nuggets can just throw a lot at you, and they have a lot of good players. They have one great player, Jamal Murray, maybe even before his injury. I don't know that he was great other than just like really good, but it's just a lot of good players, and those teams typically do really well in the regular season, because the other teams, when you just look at like who they have 4 through 10, they just can't match up with what the Nuggets can throw at you.
Yep, and then they added Bruce Brown on top of that, a guy who upped his three-point shooting ability from the mid-20s to 40%. So another outside weapon they can use, a guy that can, guard both the guard and forward position for you. Kind of a big body, even though he's only 6'4", and with his stretching shooting ability, that's really improved over the last year or so. I mean, it's just it's just an embarrassment of riches, of mid-level riches for Denver that are really helping, and especially in this early phase where they're not going to look their best. Obviously, you're trying to incorporate and work Murray and Porter back into basketball, and so like you saw in opening night at Utah, it didn't quite go the way that people thought it would, especially with a team like Utah that looks like they're going to be tanking for Wembanyama, and then they go out and win game one. So. Definitely not what people were expected, but Denver will get there. It's just going to take a little bit of time, working a couple guys back from injury. Really important guys, too. Obviously, you're talking about your number 2 and your number 3. So it'll take some time, but, come All-Star break and beyond, the Denver Nuggets are going to be making some noise.
Yeah, and, I expect them to be one of the top seeds in the West, too. And I think the West is interesting because you look at so many teams, and, I don't know, there's probably 3, maybe 4 that you could see winning the West, different levels of believability, of course. But if you're just asking me, like, can this team make the conference finals, that list is probably 8 deep. Like, it's, there's a lot of teams that I could see being better and winning, 2 rounds in the playoffs. Again, different levels of believability. I'm going to pick the Warriors to make the West finals before I'm going to pick, like, the Pelicans. But I don't think that the Pelicans can't do it.
And let's go right there. Let's talk about them Pelicans with Zion Williamson and Dirty KD, as I like to call him. They got, they were looking pretty decent last year without Zion. Brandon Ingram was stepping his game up, and he's kind of been underrated, under the radar since going, from LA to the Pelicans. But he stepped his game up year after year, and I think he should be one of the top, 25 players in the NBA this year, no question. He's got everything to his game that he needs, and it just except for the publicity because he plays down in New Orleans. But between him and Zion, you got 2 guys that can go out and get you 25 to 30 every single night.
Yeah, you got a third guy in C.J. McCollum that can do that too, and then you have,
right,
Herb Jones, you have Jonas Valanciunas. It's a really good team that the Pelicans have, and obviously the big factor is going to be Zion's health. But there's no reason that the Pelicans can't again make the Western Conference Finals. I think it's going to be a team that makes the playoffs. Zion obviously looks more fit this year than he has in years past, finally. But you add him with Brandon Ingram, and then just some of the other guys that they have on their roster, sort of like the Nuggets that we talked about, right? They have Jose Alvarado, who kind of made his name in the playoffs last year, harassing Chris Paul. They have Devontae Graham. You look at other guys, Herb Jones, we already mentioned, but Larry Nance Jr., who's been a good NBA player, probably not his entire career, but every year after like his second year, Larry Nance has been a good player. And it's just a lot of athleticism that they have on the team, and they can hit you just with, different things. You can go Zion at the 5 and run small ball. Obviously, you can have Valanciunas out there to make, probably play a little bit more traditional, although Valanciunas can step outside and shoot a little bit as well. But it's a team that they're going to have enough defenders, I think, or that's probably the question, is if they're going to have enough defenders. And it's a big if. But if Zion can get there defensively, he had 4 steals in their opening night win. But if he can get there defensively and show off some of that defensive ability that he showed at Duke, and he hasn't shown it in the NBA. But if he can get there, that's just another guy that they can throw on the wing to make, the opponent's life obviously more difficult. And if Zion's a bad defender, then opponents are, of course, going to have an easier time scoring against the Pelicans. But I like the team a lot. They're going to be certainly a fun team to watch. That I don't think anybody's picking them to be the best team in the West. But in terms of like your league pass rankings, they might be number 1. It'd be a really fun team to watch all year long.
And this is crazy. So we've just talked about 5 teams in the West. And we haven't even talked about Phoenix yet. We haven't talked about Minnesota yet. We haven't talked about Dallas yet. This West is stacked, dude. We didn't even talk about the team that was the number 1 seed in the West, the Phoenix Suns last year, before getting blowed out in Game 7.
82 games.
Right? It's just ridiculous. And so the the Suns with Ayton, who's obviously disgruntled after everything that went down with the way the season ended. Booker, can he make that next leap? Can Chris Paul continue to fight off Father Time the way that he has? Didn't look like it at the end of the year. It looked like Father Time really caught up with him. Minnesota adding Rudy Gobert to go along with Karl Anthony Towns, Anthony Edwards, D'Angelo Russell. Dallas, obviously, Luka Doncic. They lost Jalen Brunson, but they brought back, they got back Tim Hardaway Jr. Like, the West is full, dude. Like, it's absolutely full of teams that can really just hurt one another, take one another out to see who's going to be left standing at the end to represent the West in the NBA Finals.
Yeah, I don't know that there's going to be a whole lot of separation in the West between seeds like 3 and 10, which is the play-in, and certainly not between like 6 and 10. But the West is, they're full of teams. All the teams you mentioned are teams that can absolutely make the playoffs. But just by math, two of those teams you mentioned are going to be in the play-in, and then you're probably looking at the Lakers as a play-in team as well, who we also haven't mentioned. But like, it's incredible the amount of I don't even know necessarily that it is a deep conference, and I think most of those teams are good. I also don't know that how many of the teams in the West are like top 5 teams in the NBA. So the East might be better up top, and I actually think the East is fairly deep as well. But I think just in terms of the West, it's going to be really even. I think the Warriors are probably a clear number 1, and then the Clippers should be better than kind of all of these other teams that we've talked about. But I think everyone from like the Nuggets on down are going to be fairly similar. The Nuggets should be better than like Timberwolves by a decent margin, I would guess. But all those teams in the middle, the Pelicans, the Suns, and it's funny we're calling the Suns a middle team, and again they won 60-something games last year. But it's just the way it goes. Basketball moves quick, and it seems like everyone's just kind of writing the Suns off because of what we saw in the playoffs. And then again you have another year of Luka and him only getting better for a year, and he seems like a guy that just nobody can deal with, no matter how good of perimeter defenders that you have. It seems like Luka's going to make them look silly. So what does that look like another year? Kind of just with NBA experience and with another year of getting better. Is he good enough to raise a team to a top 2 or 3 seed? Like LeBron was kind of his first time around in Cleveland. It's something that we'll have to see, and it is something that I am obviously excited to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. 3 through 10 is going to be ridiculous. I mean, I don't know how you rank the Grizzlies versus the Mavs versus the Suns versus it's just they all have studs. There you go. All right, so let's get to the awards that we think each of these guys are winning. MVP. I had Joel Embiid taking it down, but then I started thinking about how James Harden can get in his way of winning the MVP. Having someone else on the team that can be as dangerous as Harden can be. Someone like a Tyrese Maxey who might win Most Improved Player if he jumps up and starts dropping 24, 25 points a game. And this all takes away from what Embiid is doing. So I don't know that I had Embiid, and then I went back to Giannis to steal the MVP, just because Giannis doesn't have that. Yes, he's got Middleton once in a while, but he really doesn't have that guy that's going to steal his shine as much as Harden can steal Embiid's shine.
Yeah, so I do have Embiid winning the MVP, but I don't know, I might do a last-minute pivot just to be different. And it's a guy who's won MVPs before, but it's kind of been long enough that people haven't forgotten about him. But they've kind of forgiven him for winning MVPs, is Steph Curry. He's going to be on what we think is probably the best team in the NBA. Everybody loves the Warriors now because they won the championship again last year. So they're probably starting off ahead of the race in terms of just what the media is going to do. Half the Warriors games are nationally televised. They literally have 41 national TV games. So you're going to see a ton of Steph. Everybody's going to see a ton of Steph. So I did have Embiid. I'll actually take Steph Curry to win the MVP, though.
All right, Rookie of the Year. We both got the same guy. We already talked about it. It's Paolo. I don't even know how much of a battle it's going to be.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, of course, there's other guys who are good. I'm gonna take. I'll take Paolo though.
All right, defensive player of the year.
Oh, this one's always tough because it's like, it's kind of whoever. Now people hate Ben Simmons. I don't want Rudy Gobert to win it. Oh, Herb Jones, my man, my man
All right.
in New Orleans.
I'm going with our man Money Green. Give Draymond his second defensive player of the year. Second? Yeah, right?
Yeah.
He's got one.
Be a second.
Yeah, all right.
Step 3.
Most improved player.
So this one, I stick with the Warriors. I'm going to take James Wiseman. I think, again, the Warriors are going to have a lot of nationally televised games, and the thing that they've never had is a big man, a center, whatever you want to call it. And now they have one, and I think he's going to play really well, and he's going to get a lot of highlight plays, blocks, dunks, that sort of thing. And I just think James Wiseman will win it, or should win it. They might give it to somebody stupid like Anthony Edwards, like they did last year with John Morant, and give a guy who's already an all-star the award. But
right.
Oh well.
All right. I think a full season of playing alongside Embiid and Harden will free things up for Tyrese Maxey to make that leap and drop that 25 a game that I think he can get near. She showed a lot last year before Harden even joined the team, really being the second scoring option on the 76ers. And with a full season of Harden there, it's just going to be leading defenses to face off with Harden more and leaving Maxey with a lesser defender. And I think Maxey's going to take advantage of that. I'm going to go with Tyrese Maxey for most improved player. And who you got for coach of the year?
I might say Steve Kerr. Willie Green, coach of the Pelicans. I don't know why I was blanking on his name. Well, I think the Pelicans are going to be pretty good, and I think he's going to get love similar to what like the Grizzlies coach got last year.
All right. Give me this man who got stepped over in the 2001 NBA Finals. Ty Lue to win Coach of the Year with the Los Angeles Clippers, because they going to bounce back as much as I hate them. Not him, the team. Ty Lue to win Coach of the Year with the LA Clippers. All right, that's going to do it. Thanks for kicking it with Griffin and Bass. For Ryan Griffin, I'm Matt Bassin. As always, we're taking it for the children. We'll see y'all after the weekend. Go Lions. Peace.
Go Pistons.
Hey, Ryan Griffin here. Thank you so much for watching today's episode of Griffin and Bass. Be sure to give us your thoughts in the comments below. Remember to click the bell to receive the latest notifications from DSN, and subscribe for breaking news, community blogs, polls, contests, and other content.